Okay, for the cloud security training course, we have 5 modules. Module number 1, we will cover the architectural concepts and designs requirements. We will have some security concepts and some other concepts related to the cloud. We want to understand some security concepts which are very important in the cloud, and we have to understand them very well. Then they will be helpful for you to evaluate cloud service providers and to understand the cloud services. Also, in module number 2, we will cover the cloud data security. We will start to split the cloud services into products for the data security, platform, application, operations, and so on. And we will start to concentrate on each area in detail about the data security, how you can protect the data, how you can isolate the data, how you can share this data with the cloud service provider securely, and so on. The third module, it will cover the cloud platform and infrastructure security. This is a very important module because in some standards we are considering data and applications are not secure if the infrastructure which hosting this application and data, if it's not secure. And makes sense. Suppose that you have a network and someone he was able to reconnaissance the network, then this means that he may be able to capture the data in the form of buckets as Windshark or whatever tools, and he will be able to read your data. Then we want to make sure that the infrastructure and the platform is secure as well. Applications security. This is one of the main important modules, and unfortunately there are a lot of security engineers they are not caring about the application security. I know that this happening because the security engineers they are familiar with the cloud or in general infrastructure security as a technical or maybe administrative or managerial controls and the data as encryption, all this stuff. But with the application security, they may not be aware about this because usually the application security requires the developers to be aware about the security controls to be integrated into the application. For example, to protect the application from accepting any entry without checking its boundaries. And if I am saying that the entry, it should be character only, there are no commands and so on. For all these things, it should be handled by the developers, and this is the reason why the application security, it's not considered in the application, in the design of the cloud service or even in the data centers, usually because the application, it's ready-made and we are getting this application from a vendor. When we are trying to utilize the compensating controls or the technical controls or supplementary controls, as we call it, to protect the application. We will go through these modules hopefully day after tomorrow, and we will understand how we can protect the application and how we can advise the developers to protect the applications. Finally, we have the module number 5 for security operations. Security operations, it is the backbone success of the security in general. Just imagine if you have a security solution in your organization and it costs you, say, 10 million US dollars. By the end of the day, this solution does not mean anything if you don't have a proper security operations and you don't have the competence to be able to analyze the logs. If you don't have the right person who will be able to analyze the logs and see the traffic patterns and understand the logs of the security devices, this means that you will be in a trouble because no one he will feel that there is any attack or there is any terminate and still resident applications on your network. And from our practical experience, when we are going to do any vulnerability assessments or penetration tests, and we are asking the security manager about the health of his network, he usually say everything is under control, everything is great, and so on. And when we will have our tools and start to make a vulnerability assessment, we will discover that there are a lot of viruses, maybe malware, maybe some resistant applications or software resistant threads. I mean, these are the things which are not clear for the security administrators because we are not able to understand the logs, or maybe they did not read the logs at all for their devices. Uh, I think we covered these points. Unfortunately, we will not be able to go through this step because, mashallah, you are 12 person and this it will waste some time. But just I want to ask you one question. And I will put it as in a form of a poll, and I will send it to you right now. And please let me know when you are seeing this one. Okay. I sent you a poll now, and I really appreciate if you can answer it because I want to understand your level for the insecurity. And this how many years experience in the security, then I will be able to know what is the pace and the information which I want to highlight, then to make it interesting instead of repeating some information which you may be aware. I will leave it for 30 more minutes, sorry, 34 more seconds. Okay, great. Okay. As I can see, we have three persons. We are fresh for the security, and two persons we have between 1 to 3 years, and three persons we have more than 3 years. Okay, that's great. Okay, great. Just I want to tell you that we will cover the training course, the basics from scratch, and this is considered even if you don't have any experience, this it will not be an issue because we will cover all this in more details. Yani this course, it will be considered covering the all the levels if you have experience or if you don't have the experience. The training timing, it will be 2 hours daily. We will split the 1 hour into two sessions, 150 minutes for the session and 10 minutes for the break. And finally, we will start the IT security basics and concepts. And as I told you, if you have any questions, please put it on the chart, I will answer it immediately or after I finish the module. Okay. This slide, it will cover some very important security basics and concepts. And these security basics and concepts, it's not related only to the cloud. It's in general training courses I mean security training courses. First one, it is the least privilege, and this is one of the main principles of the security. And the least privilege, it means that you have to provide the minimum permissions for the users for any resources or application to do their exercise or to do their jobs. Suppose that you have an employee, he is working in security department. Then you have to provide him all the permissions for the applications for the security department. And of course, these permissions, it should be appropriate for whatever the permission he requires, he should get. For example, if he will read only data from some application, then he have to get the read permission, only read permission. Don't give him full access, don't give him read write, because these are additional permissions for the users, which he will not utilize it, but it can be used as a backdoor and it can be risky, because if his account, it was compromised, or if there is any hacker, he was able to utilize his account, then this means that these permissions, it can be utilized in a bad manner. Also, there is another important point in the least privilege, and this is from our practical experience. We found that there will be some accumulated permissions. What do we mean? Accumulated permissions, for example, as we mentioned, that you are working in security department and you have an access for all the security applications. Let's say that you have 5 security applications for the security department. When you are promoted and you are moved into the network department, then the network administrator or the applications administrators, they assigned you the permissions to the applications which are related to the network department. Also, we have to revoke all the permissions which you had for the security applications. But if they did not revoke this permission, then this means that you will have the permissions for the network and for the security applications. And this is considered a risk, because if your account is compromised or it's utilized by an attacker, then this means that you will have a broad access for a lot of applications. And then the least privilege, it's related to the type of the controls. If you need read, then you should get read. Don't get anything more than the permission required. And if you are left the department, then your permissions, it should be revoked and you have to get the new permissions for the new department. And this is very important. And as a security administrator, you have to review this. Of course, it's not practical that you can review all of them at the same time, because you may have 100, 200, maybe 1,000 users, but you have to choose random accounts and make sure about the permissions assigned to them. And also, you must have a clear procedure for assigning permissions. If you want to assign new permissions for employees who are moved from their positions, then you have to make sure that you revoke the current permissions first, then assign the new permissions for them. This, it will be a very important concept. The other concept in the security, and this talk of the town in security, which we call it defense in depth. Of course, in this diagram, which is front of us, so suppose that this data, it's here. As analogy, just I want you to imagine that you have some jewels here. And these jewels, it may cost $1 million US. I think this is something which If we have this value, really, I have to drop IT totally and go to Hawaii and spend whatever remainder of my life there. Anyway, you have some jewels and it is kept in this area with your data. Then how you have to protect it? Do you think that one level of protection it will be enough, that you have to keep it in a cabinet and or safe and this it will be enough? Of course not. What you have to do, you have to make layers of security. For example, you may have these jewels and it will be put in a safe, and this safe it will be locked in a closed room, and this room it will have only one entrance which is protected with access controls and all the protection methods, and this room it will be protected and kept aside in maybe floor, dedicated floor for it, and this floor it has a guards and it has maybe dogs and CCTV and all physical and requirements or security requirements. And this floor, it will be in a protected building as well. When this means that you have a different levels. When if there is any hacker, he was able to penetrate the building, he will find that in the reception there are guards, and with guards weapons, and if they want to reach to the floor which it has this room where we are keeping the jewels, then he have to make a big fight with the guards, and this fight it will be with the weapons, and even if he was able to kill all the guards and reach to this floor, he will find this floor is protected again with guards and CCTV and dogs. If he is able to penetrate it, then he will find the closed room. If he was able to penetrate the closed room, he will find the safe and so on. But look, you are trying to make life very difficult to this hacker. By the end of the day, you may tell me, but by the end, he is able to reach. Even if he takes 1, 2, 3 hours, he will be able to reach. He will be able to penetrate the building. He is able to kill the guards. He is able to kill the dogs. He is able to open the closed or sealed floor. He is able to open the safe, and he reached to the jewels and he stole it. Yes, you are right, but this is only in one case. What we are doing in the defense in depth, we are trying to make life very difficult for the hacker. You will not be able to reach to your data and application and information easily. Besides, which is more important, that each layer, when it is penetrated, it should start to send some notifications for the security administrators, as it's happening in the banks. If there is any attack on a bank, then immediately there will be some rings, it will ring. And these rings, it will not ring in the bank itself. It may ring in the police station, which is next to the bank or which is very close near to the bank. When the hacker, he is not knowing that, or I mean the thieves, they are not knowing that there is already some tools or detective tools or controls which detect that there is a robbery. But actually there is a detective controls, and these detective controls give the notification for the police men that there is a robbery in the bank. And as we are seeing in the films and movies, that when the thieves start to open the safe, then we will hear the police cars sounds, and they are surrounding the bank, and they are not able to go outside, and all this stuff which we are familiar with from the movies. This what we call it defense in depth. When we are trying to do the life of our or of the hackers, it's very difficult because they have multiple layers. Here in our example, if he has the data, then first of all, suppose that this is the internet and he is trying to look into your data from the internet, then he will find the perimeter security, and this it will consider layer number one. Perimeter security, it may be a firewall firewall, it may be IPS, it may be VPN. Then he will find the network security, where he will find network IDS or network IPS. He will find encryption. He will find another firewalls. And of course, when he is penetrating any of these devices, immediately these devices, it will send the message to the network or the security administrator to inform him that there is an attack and you have to take care. This, it will be critical. Then the security administrator, he have to start, even if he will reach to the level to make a physical disconnection, it will be okay, but he have to protect the data and the network. Also, the third level, it will be the endpoint security. If your data is stored on a server, then you have the endpoint security. You have, beside the network firewalls in the network security and printer security, you may have a network or a host firewall, you may have host IPS, you may have malware detection applications on the servers, and you have the application security controls as a layer number 4, and finally the user level controls as access controls, and as we would see later, the what we can say, the authentication and authorization till they reach to the data. And this is the concept which we call it the defense index. This is a very important concept, and I think you will hear this a lot, and I hope that we make the concept clear. Any questions?
Nothing from my side, sir.
Okay. The concept number 3, it will be the CIA triad. And CIA triad, this is a very important thing. And I think if you are working in the security field, as some of you mentioned that you have 3 years when you heard about this. The CIA triad, this it will be, it's called, as it's mentioned, CIA, and this CIA, it stands for some abbreviations. First one, it is the confidentiality. Number 2, integrity. Number 3, availability. Do you know what is the confidentiality? What is confidentiality?
Typically it needs to ensure we have to enable access for only authorized people wherever it's required.
Excellent. Excellent. This is a good definition, confidentiality, that this means that allow authorized users to access the data. Allow authorized users only to access the data. When the data, it will be confidential, and no one he will be able to see the data except if he is authorized. Okay, what is integrity? What is integrity? Yeah,
Integrity again.
sorry, Muhammad. Abdurrahman, he raised his hand first. Go, Abdurrahman, please.
To ensure that the data is not manipulated with. It's from the original source as it is.
Excellent. This means that to allow authorized users to make the changes, allow only authorized users to make the changes. And this means that to ensure that the data is not manipulated, and the data, when it will moved, or even if it's stored on the hard disks, it's not affected by any changes or illegal changes. And finally, of course, the availability, and I think the availability, all of us familiar with that to keep your data available for the authorized users when they require it. This is a very important concept, my friends. This is a very important concept because, you know, when we are speaking about the security, there are some people, when we will ask what is security, immediately we will call CIA. We have to protect the assets, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And we consider that this security. Although in the new concepts, CIA, it's not the only concepts now. We have CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, availability, authenticity, and non-repudiation. These are the new other expressions which are added in our new definitions of the security, and the authenticity to authenticate that the data is coming from the right person or the right entity. Non-repudiation, that no one he will be able to deny any action on the internet. For example, non-repudiation, for example, suppose that you have an account in a bank and you want to withdraw $1,000 from your account, and you logged in through the internet and you transfer the money, or you have went to any ATM and you received the money. You are acting smart and you went to the bank next day and you told them, oh, come on, when I checked my account over the internet, I found that there are $1,000 are missed. They will tell you, no, it's not missed. You withdraw this amount from this machine, and in this machine, it was located in this location, and you withdraw this money at a specific time. But non-repudiation, this means that you will not be able to deny that you make some actions. This action over the internet, it can be create a record, it can create account, you delete account, assign permission to account, whatever anything you are doing, it will be in the form of a record, it will be in form of a database record, or it may be a syslog record or whatever. If you want to have more information about the CIAAN, this you will find on our IT certificates YouTube channel, a video. It's around 25 or 20 minutes. It will explain all these informations in more details. The second concept, which is considered the backbone of the security, is the cryptography. And the cryptography, it will be the encryption, act of encryption. And the act of transferring the clear text data into cipher data, which it cannot be understood. Then if there is any hacker, he was able to capture this encrypted data, it does not mean anything for him because he does not have the key, then he will not be able to read the clear text. And the cryptography is a very, very, very important concept in the security, especially in the cloud, because as we will see in module number 1, we will highlight the importance of this module or of cryptography, because it will provide a very important tool to protect your data and isolate the multiple users who are working on the same network. And we will cover this in more details in the next module, inshallah. Certificates. This, again, another concept for the security. And this concept, it's related to the public and the private keys. In encryption, in integrity, you usually use something called public key and the private key. These two keys are related to each other. In other words, if you are able to encrypt the data with a public key, then the private key is the only key which it will be able to decrypt it. In some situation, people are confusing. They are saying if you are encrypted the data with the public, you will be able to retrieve it with the public. No, that's not right. If you are encrypting the data with public, you will be able to decrypt it with the private. Then it's a relation between the public and the private key. One of the main issues for the public and the private key, that like, if I want to send a data for multiple users and this data, it will be encrypted, then I will ask for the public key for each one of you. For example, suppose that I want to exchange data with all the trainees in encrypted form, where I have Abdurrahman, I have Adnan, I have Hassan, I have Aysam, I have Kumar, I have Mawadda, and all of you, I want to send them the information in encrypted way. Then I will ask you, please, can you share your public key with me? Then I will be able to send you some private messages or encrypted messages. Okay, that's fine. You can share this information with me. Now we are 13 person on the training, then it's easy to collect the 13 key. But just imagine if I want to share the public keys for people who I don't know them. Suppose that we are doing a webinar, and this webinar we have 100 or 150 users, and most of these users, I don't know them. I don't have any record for them, and these people, they have the URL, and we are logging to the URL. Then how can I share all this public information? And on the other hand, how can I make sure that this is the real public key of the person who are claims that they are our trainees? Yani, for example, now I received a key, and Abdurrahman, he said that this is my key. How can I make sure that this it's really the key of Abdurrahman? It's not a hacker, and this hacker, he made a man in the middle attack, and he receiving a connection for Abdurrahman, change the public key of Abdurrahman, and he had his public key and send the public key for me. This is transparent for me. I will not be able to know it. But we came to another concept which called CA. CA, Certificate Authority. What the CA it will do? CA, it will say, okay, we are responsible to make sure that the peoples, we are the right persons as they are claiming. And for example, Abdurrahman is saying, I am Abdurrahman. Really? Are you Abdurrahman? Yes, time. Give me your passport copy, and give me your Iqama or whatever the ID, and then I will ask him for a lot of information. And when I make sure that this is really Abdurrahman, I will take his public key, and I will sign it. I will sign this public key with my key as a CA. The CA also, he has a public key and a private key. And of course, as we know, the private key, it will be private, and it will be stored only with the CA. Then he will take this public key and he will sign it with his private key. Then he will say, this certificate, it's for Abdurrahman. When I say, as Osama, I want to collect a certificate for Abdurrahman, and certificate for Adnan, and certificate for Hassan, and certificate for Haizam, then what I have to do to contact the CA, and I tell him, please give me these certificates. Or if these people, they send me these certificates, I know that this CA, it's trustable, and as Baltimore or whatever, and I know that it's trustable, I can trust it when it say that this certificate is for Adnan or Hassan or Haizam or whatever, any person, then I can trust this certificate. Then now I have a copy of a public key, even if I don't know these persons well, even if I don't know these persons well, but by the end of the day, the CA, he knows all of them very well, not well, very well. He may have a copy of the passports, he may have a copy of the ID, whatever the way of authenticating the users. By the way, for the public key and the private key, next quarter we will have a training course, same as the one which we are working on it right now. It will call the Cryptography. This will be very important. It will show you how to use the public keys, private keys, integrity, confidentiality, shared keys, Diffie-Hellman, and all these things. And I hope that you will have time to attend this course. I think it will be very valuable, and it will give you a lot of information. Okay, the second, or I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth concept, it will be physical security. Physical security is very important. Although there are a lot of people, we are not so caring about it. When you speak about the protecting the data, people we start to think about encryption, about reconnaissance, about scanning for open ports, scanning for IP addresses, and all this stuff of the reconnaissance and capturing the data and all this stuff. Although physical security or physical access for any device, it will be more dangerous. Just imagine if you have an access for a firewall, just if you are able to telnet a firewall, or if you are able to connect a console cable to the firewall, then you will be able to capture the configuration of the firewall, and you will be able to understand the or draw a blueprint for your the network and for the security protection as well. This is considered a very critical point. And the physical security, it's not only protecting the firewall. The physical security starting from protecting the premises itself, the building. The building, it must have fences around it, and in some standards we are saying these fences, it should be with a specific length. If there must be lights, and these lights again, it should be at specific heights. You must have a CCTV, you must have personal guards, you must have dogs if possible. And when you will go inside the building, you must have a reception, and this reception we have a guards, and we have access controls. Then when we reach to the data center, no one he will be able to access the data center without authentication, and this it will be in form of an access control. This can be using 2FA or whatever, any methods for authentication. Inside the data center itself, you must have secure cabinets, and these secure cabinets should be locked. No one he should have the access for the machines, and I think we will cover this in more details in the module of the infrastructure security. The other concept which I want you to understand, the risk management. And from my point of view, risk management, again, it is the backbone of any security solutions. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are working in the security field now. If you are asking them to create a security model or security controls for you, they will tell you, wow, this is very easy. Just split your network into two zones, internal, external, or internal DMZ, external, put a firewall to manage the and inspect the traffic between the multiple zones, and you can have IPS, you can have VPN SSL, you can have malware applications, you can have firewall, email firewall, and so on. All the things, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's right, but this is not the way to approach any organization by these security controls. What you have to do first is the risk management. You have to understand very well what are the assets which you want to protect, and what are the vulnerabilities and threats which threaten your assets. Then you have to check the impact. You have to define the value of this asset. Just for example, to understand the importance of the risk management, suppose that you have asset number one and asset number two. And this asset, it will cost the company $1 million if it's attacked. This, let's say it's a patent for any manufacturing company or whatever. And you have another asset, which is asset number two, and this asset number two, it will cost the company $1K if it's hacked. Then, when you will do the risk management, first thing you have to define, number one, you have to define the asset. Number two, you have to define the asset value. Why the asset value? Because the asset value is very important, because you have to concentrate on the important asset you have in your company. Do you think that if I am a security administrator, or if I'm top management of a company, and I want to spend some money, and of course there is no discussion, usually you will find the problem in the budget. You have a limited budget. We are familiar with this concept. If we are coming to security controls, you will find limited budget, and this is life. Then suppose that the top management, we have only $2 or $1 million US dollars, and we said that this for this year. Next year, we can provide you another value. Do you think that I have to spend the money on asset number one or asset number two? Which one is most important for me to spend money for it? What do you think?
It should be asset one.
Of course, it should be for asset value asset one, because the asset value one, it will cost the organization or the company almost 1 million US dollars if it's hacked. Then this is the benefit of the risk management. The risk management, it will show you the importance of the assets and its values when you can concentrate on protecting the most important assets. You have to spend your resources on the most important asset. I'm not saying that you have to neglect asset number two. This, of course, it's not my decision. But what we have to do, first of all, we have to protect the assets which are classified as critical, then classified as high, then classified as medium, then classified as low, then classified as information. In some situation, we'll say, I don't care about this, I don't want to protect them. For example, you have storage or maybe a machine server, it has some data with the some offers, sales offers for your organization. This is so important because these sales offers already published over the internet because you want to make a business. Then why do you protect an asset which it makes some, which it consists some data which is classified as a public? It's not the matter of wasting money, and there is no need to protect it. And even if there is any hacker, he will not be able, he does not want to look into this asset at all because it will not be valuable for him. Because all the data which is hosted by this machine, it's already hosted on the internet. When instead of doing something illegal, he have to log into the website and collect all this information from the website. And this is the benefit of the risk management, and this is very, very important. My recommendation and my advice to you, please, there are some concepts which are very important. If you want to work as a professional, and I'm saying again, as a professional security engineer, you have to understand these concepts very well. One of them, it is the cryptography. Number two, it is the risk management. These are very important concepts. You have to understand it very well. You have to understand very well. They are not complicated, they are simple, but you have to understand them very well. Okay. The other concept which we will discuss before going to break, it is the business continuity and disaster recovery. Business continuity and disaster recovery. The business continuity and the disaster recovery, this it will ensure the competence of the company to continue the business even in the case of abnormal situation. It may be a simple things as, for example, power problem, or it may be something fatal as some disaster happened for the data center. The business continuity, it's not only caring on the failover of the service of IT services, but it's caring that the business, it should be able to continue even if the IT is down. For example, in some manufacturing company, we are saying, okay, let's understand what is the most important resources for our company. We will say, for example, we want to be able to print invoices. This company, it may selling some products and users, they will not buy these products without invoice for warranty. Then we are saying, okay, then if the IT is down and I'm not able to print the invoice, that's fine. Let's write the invoice to the user as handwriting on a paper. and this it will be accepted because by the end of the day, the user or the client or the customer, he received the invoice for any product he buy. Then now we are moving from the IT infrastructure into the old model using books and all this stuff until the ID is up and running again. Again, the business continuity, it will cover the concept of the HA, the high availability. It will cover the concept of the redundancy. This means that you can have two devices, for example, switches. You can have two switches connected together. One is active and one standby. Then if the first one is down, the other, it will take over. The high availability, it is the same concept that you may have active or active standby. And finally, we have the concept of the disaster recovery. And disaster recovery, its main concern during the disasters. You have a disaster, it may be flooding, it may be volcano, it may be earthquake, whatever. And now the data center is down totally because there may be a problem with the data center facilities or the building or whatever. Then you will be able to fail over all your service into another location, which is safe location, which is called DR site, and the users will be able to access all these services from the DR sites. In Saudi Arabia, we did not have the concept of the disaster recovery before because people, they don't understand what do you mean by a disaster. But I think these who are working in Saudi Arabia or who are living from you in Saudi Arabia, they are aware about the flood, which it happened almost 10 years ago in Jeddah. Actually, it happened twice and 2 years between both of them. And at that time, the second one, I was in Jeddah, and believe it or not, I returned home from my work swimming. This, it's not a joke, my friends. This is an actual statement. Literally, I returned to my home swimming from my office to home swimming. At that time, believe it or not, most of the ISPs infrastructure were down because most of them, they had the power generators in the basement. At that time, all the basement, it was flooded and the power, it was cut, and we are not able to run the data centers. All the data centers, it was idle, and all the services, it was down, and we spent about a week till this service, it was retrieved back. And this, it was the concept of the disaster recovery. And from that moment, we start in Saudi Arabia to think about this as the protection controls and building DR sites and so on. Also, there is one event happened in Egypt, I think in 1992. There was an earthquake, although it was not critical, but it gave us the impression that these things, it can happen, and we have to keep this in our minds while we are thinking about these protections. We covered the IT security basics and concepts, and I hope that this it was clear for all of you. Do you have any questions before going for a break?
Yeah, one question, sir. Can you explain about the cryptography once again?
Cryptography. We will cover cryptography in module number 2. I will try to give you more details about it.
Great, thank you.
Are most welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your patience and your understanding. And we will have a break for 10 minutes.